What's up, guys? I'm the BC from Reviews and More, and today I'm here to talk about the Roger Moore Bond movies, do a bit of a retrospective, just go over each of the films in his run as James Bond. I'm not going to necessarily rank them, but I'll just kind of do little mini reviews of each of them, from Live and Let Die to A View to a Kill. Although I already did Live and Let Die as its own video, so basically all I have to say about that is it's not great. It's about a 5 out of 10. It's just kind of silly, and it has some fun moments, and Roger Moore did okay his first time around, but it was just not one of my favorites. It's just very mediocre. So now let's get started with The Man with the Golden Gun. This movie was pretty bad. Definitely one of the weakest James Bond movies. It's not quite the worst. There are movies that are worse than this, but this is still very just mediocre and not good. Christopher Lee plays a villain in this one, and he's the bright spot of the movie, but he's not in it as much as I would have liked him to be. When he does show up, he's good, but he doesn't show up that often, so it's not enough to really save this movie from being just really boring and way too goofy. They have that I think his name is like Sergeant Pepper, and he's really racist and just annoying. I know this was made in like the 70s, but it's just really annoying. And yeah, I did not enjoy this one, save for a few moments here and there, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. It's pretty bad. And the next is The Spy Who Loved Me, which is probably the most iconic of the Moore Bond films. I thought it was okay. It was definitely better than the last two, but it's still not one of my overall favorite Bond movies. It's just, again, it's just a little too silly and too long. These movies, especially the Moore ones, like I understand the Connery ones being a bit longer and the Craig ones being a bit longer, but the Moore Bond movies could all be cut down to 90 minutes and would be way better if they were. But these are usually over 2 hours, and they just get so long and boring. Spy Who Loved Me is still pretty okay. It's decent. I like Barbara Bach as the spy, the female spy that Moore has to work with. She does a good job. She adds probably the best part of this movie, actually, is just their interactions with each other and Bond kind of having to deal with the female spy, which is interesting. Kind of learn that he's not always gonna be the greatest there. There's someone else who can also do some cool stuff, and it may be a girl, and that's cool. And Jaws was introduced in this one, the famous Bond henchman Jaws. Well, he's not Bond's henchman, he's a bad guy's henchman. I can't even remember who the bad guy in this movie was, to be honest with you, but Jaws was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure his actor is Richard Kiel, and he's been in some movies, and he's pretty cool. So, yeah, overall, it was fine. There were some pretty fun moments, and it's definitely one of the better Moore Bond movies. It's still not great. It's kind of goofy, way too long, but it's still decent enough, and I'll probably watch it again at some point, especially if I do another Bond marathon. I did not actively dislike watching this movie, so that's good. I'm going to give it a 6. It's a decent movie. It's there. Alright, moving on to the worst Bond movie of all time. This movie sucks. Moonraker. I hate this movie. I really don't want to talk about it. It's bad. It's way too goofy. Like, all the other Moore Bond movies were kind of goofy, but this one just steps it up to like level 20, and it's not funny at all. They try to make it funny, but it's just not. It's so stupid. It's so long. I could actively feel the time being wasted as I watched this movie. I wanted to go start a farm or something like that while I was watching this movie. I'm like, there's so many other things I could be doing other than watching Moonraker right now. I could go to space. James Bond goes to space in this movie. I could go to space in the time that this movie takes to finish its story. Jeez. This movie is so long and boring and stupid and goofy, and I hate it. Now we get to talk about a good movie. For Your Eyes Only. I love this movie. This is one of the best Bond movies. And I'm surprised because I do not like Moore as Bond, like, at all. But he does actually a pretty good job in this one. This is definitely the one where they're like, okay, Moonraker went way off the rails. Let's take it back. Let's ground it. Let's make this a good Bond movie. And it is. It's such a good Bond movie. The female lead, I don't remember the actress's name, but she is one of the best Bond girls. She's Greek. She's awesome. There's so much culture going to Greece. Or is it Italy? It's either Greece or Italy. Red shirts, look it up, and then whichever one is right, say, like, cut out the part where I said it's Greece and put Italy or whatever. She's Italian or she's Greek. And I love the Greece or Italy setting of this movie. You can cut around that and just, yeah, this is a note for red shirts. Don't keep any of this in. He will keep it in, just to spite me. Yeah, I love the setting of this movie. I think it has some of the best action of the Moore era of Bond. It was made in the early 80s, so it's definitely got a little bit of that 80s grit to it. It's great. It's so good. I love the characters. All the side characters that they introduce are so good. Moore is actually good in this movie. He's finally given a good Bond performance, and it's such a fun movie. It's fun, it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's got some really good serious moments. It's still a little goofy, but it does not go off the rails. It's just the right amount to add some humor without ever taking away from the main plot and action. It's so good. And next up, they completely dropped the ball again. Octopussy. I don't like this movie. This movie sucks. I guess it's not like the worst, but it's really bad. It's about the same level as. It's not quite as bad as Moonraker, but it's just bad. There's some fun moments, I guess. Like, all Bond movies have to have a few fun moments, and all of them do, so I guess I commend it on that. And I do like the kind of training of these female assassins that Bond has to interact with. I think that makes for some pretty fun sequences where he's kind of going into this world where it's all these female assassins. Of course, it's Bond, so he's a womanizer. But all these are trained killers, so it's a little bit like Spy Who Loved Me, but doubled, because there's, instead of, or probably more than doubled, instead of just one female spy, it's a bunch of them. So that's kind of a fun concept. It's just, this movie just devolves. Is that even a word? The opposite of evolve? It just devolves from being kind of an interesting, cool movie with all these female assassins and Bond having to interact with them. Like, that part of the movie is pretty cool. And then the rest of the movie is just so silly and stupid, and I don't care about it. It's just bad. The plot, he has to get a nuclear thing from the circus or something like that, and he's a clown. He has to dress up as a clown. It's so bad. It's so stupid. Don't watch this movie unless you're doing a marathon like I did, but even if you do a marathon, just don't watch this movie. It's bad. 4 out of 10, about the same as Man with the Golden Gun. And then, finally, we got A View to a Kill, which is widely considered probably the worst Bond movie, and I think it comes pretty close to that. I hate Moonraker more than this one, but this one is still not good. It has Christopher Walken, and I like Christopher Walken a lot, but like Christopher Lee in The Man with the Golden Gun, Christopher Walken just doesn't get to do a lot in this movie. They always cast these amazing actors as the villains, and then rarely do they ever actually get to have a lot of screen presence, which is very disappointing. And this is before Christopher Walken really became Christopher Walken, so if you're expecting a really goofy performance, it's just kind of weak. He's Christopher Walken, but he's done so much better and funnier performances. Take Batman Returns. I love him in Batman Returns, but in this one, he's just kind of lame. This whole movie is lame. It's bad. It's boring. It's long. Yeah, this is definitely the worst era of Bond. It's bad. For Your Eyes Only is really good, but other than that, it's just, yeah. I'm gonna give A View to a Kill 3 out of 10. It's just bad. And that is the Moore era of Bond, mostly bad, to one movie that I consider really good, one movie that I consider okay, and the rest are just lame. Don't watch these unless you really have to watch every Bond movie. And I'm sure if you grew up with these, I've heard some people who really love these because they watched them as kids. And I understand that. But coming into it with fresh eyes, never seeing a Bond movie before, and watching all of the Bond movies back to back to back, this was definitely the group of movies that I just dreaded watching as I watched each of them. I'm like, they're not going to get better, really. Aside from For Your Eyes Only, which is really good. But, yeah. I guess I couldn't say I was disappointed, though, because I'd already heard they were kind of stupid anyway, but I was not prepared for how stupid they got. So, if you want a really silly but actually funny spy movie, watch Austin Powers. I feel like Austin Powers took a lot of inspiration from the Moore era, but actually made it funny because they got a real comedian to do it, and those movies are hilarious, whereas the Moore movies are just lame. Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Look out for, I'm gonna do Dalton and Brosnan and Craig, of course. Thank you to Red Shirts for editing this video, and please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe to Red Shirts. Also, I will link his channel in the description. Goodbye.